Hello there, I'm Kios, the Ronin Beatmaker, and welcome to Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And on this episode, we're going to discuss the Code of Hammurabi. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty. Hammurabi and his God given code of laws. Quote, at that time, the gods Anu and Enlil, for the enhancement of the well-being of the people, named me by the name Hammurabi, the pious prince who venerates the gods to make justice prevail in the land, to abolish the wicked and the evil, to prevent the strong from oppressing the weak. Hammurabi's Code of Laws, Prologue. End quote. Hammurabi, the sixth king of Babylon, left an enduring legacy in the ancient world with his famous Code of Laws. Spanning a range of legal and societal matters, Hammurabi's Code is remarkable not only for its comprehensive nature, but also for its claim of divine origins. This article delves into the historical context, key provisions, and significance of Hammurabi's Code, shedding light on its impact on ancient Mesopotamian society and its enduring influence on subsequent legal systems. Although Hammurabi's Code of Laws is one of the most famous collections of laws from the ancient world, it is certainly not the oldest. In fact, it is preceded by at least two other codes of laws, namely the laws of Ur-Nama, 2100 BC, and the laws of Lipit Ishtar, 1930 BC. It may be pointed out these ancient Mesopotamian texts are not legal codes in the modern sense, i.e., collections of written laws compiled according to specific subject matters, civil code, penal code, etc., but were rather compilations of laws carved in stone. Although these collections preceded that of Hammurabi's, it cannot be said that the latter borrowed directly from the former, as there were legal rules of political entities that were independent of each other. Hammurabi, ruler of the first dynasty. So who was Hammurabi? Hammurabi reigned from 1792 to 1750 BC, was the sixth ruler of the first dynasty of Babylon. During his long reign, he oversaw the great expansion of this empire, conquering the city-states Elam, Larsa, Ishnuna, and Mari, an act which he regarded was part of a sacred mission to spread civilization to all nations. By ousting the king of Assyria, Isham-Dagan I, and making his son pay tribute, he made Babylon a major power in Mesopotamia. Hammurabi is well known for having issued the Code of Hammurabi, which he claimed to have received from Shamash, a solar deity and the Babylonian god of justice. The Mesopotamians believed Shamash was omniscient during the day, which also meant he was able to see through deceit and deception. And so, God Shamash, also referred to as Utu, was venerated as the god of truth and justice, and served as the judge of both men and gods. He was a divination god, resting at night, but also associated with the underworld. Here we have a stone engraving of Hammurabi receiving his royal insignia from the deity Shamash. One thing I always found fascinating about these stories about man meeting gods is, as much as we like to claim a level of mysticism to these stories and accounts, I feel that there is also a bit of truth to them. But I think that, and that's my personal opinion, but I believe that is really open to interpretation depending on your own belief system, so to speak. Let's continue. Hammurabi streamlined administration, commissioned huge building projects, improved agriculture, repaired and rebuilt infrastructure, enlarged and heightened the walls of the city, and built extravagant temples dedicated to the gods. His focus was also military and conquest, but according to his own writings, his main goal was to improve the lives of those who lived under his rule. By the time of Hammurabi's death, Babylon was in control of the whole of Mesopotamia. Although his successors were not able to maintain this control, this may be due to the lack of an effective bureaucracy, and his active participation on regional wars meant he did not focus on establishing an administrative system that would ensure the continual running of his empire after his death. A sense of order and earliest preservation of law. As one of the earliest recorded legal systems, its existence demonstrates the ancient Mesopotamians' recognition of the need for a set of laws to regulate society. Hammurabi's code is often considered one of the codifications of laws, as it was among the first attempts to compile and codify laws. While it was not organized into specific subject matters like modern legal codes, it marked a significant step forward in the systemic recording and preservation of laws. This approach laid the foundation for later legal codifications, providing a model for structuring legal principles and penalties. As a result, it set a precedent for future legal codes and inspired the development of subsequent legal systems in various civilizations. Here we have a votive monument with Hammurabi raising his arm in worship and rite. Detail we have of Hammurabi's code of laws. Okay. Crimes and penalties. Despite the rapid disintegration, what is that word? Despite the rapid disintegration, I apologize. Despite the rapid disintegration of his empire, Hammurabi's code of laws has survived the ravage of time, though it was only in the 20th century that they were rediscovered by archaeologists. These laws defined various types of crimes and penalties to be applied. For instance, quote, if a fire breaks out in a man's house, and a man who came to help it put it out covets the household furnishing belonging to the householder, that man shall be cast into that very fire. Hammurabi's Code of Laws, Laws 25. End quote. So I like that. If a fire breaks out in a man's house and you run over and instead of aiding in dispensing the fire, you begin ransacking his house, you will be tossed into that very fire. I would say that seems a little appropriate when it comes to personal property of individuals. However, since corporations are people, could you imagine how that would look like? All the riots and all the riders getting tossed back into those burning buildings. I don't know. This Hammurabi code sounds good, but I think modern day would it would definitely prevent any form of riots. So maybe we need to bring back some Hammurabi. Despite the eye for an eye type of punishments, such as above, Hammurabi's law codes allow different punishments to be meted out to persons of different social ranks. Thus, for instance, quote, if an Awi, upper class person, should blind the eye of another Awi, they shall blind his eye. He should break the bone of another Awi, they shall break his bone. If he should blind the eye of a commoner, or break the bone of a commoner, he shall weigh and deliver 60 shekels of silver. If he should blind the eye of an Awi slave, or break the bone of an Awi slave, he shall weigh and deliver one half of his value in silver. Hammurabi's Code of Laws, Laws 196 to 199. Now, I think what's interesting about um, the laws for upper class is that um, they still get to maintain their status quo. So even if they were to break a bone of another upper class person, their bone must be broken in turn. And even if they were to kill commoners or slaves, well, I guess we don't know about death, but what I find interesting is that the upper class people still have a level of freedom despite the law, where even if they were to um, break a bone of a commoner or anything like that, they just have to pay them off. Just, what is it like? What is it in modern time? Damages. You're paying damages. Um, so it's kind of interesting because you can kind of see where we get a little bit of our concepts for our legal system in terms of like insurance and damages and lawsuits. Uh, it's interesting. And it also kind of tells you like, and this is something that I've always been stressing, is that a lot of these concepts and ideas, when it comes to these cataclysmic resets of civilizations, I feel that a lot of these concepts, ideas, philosophies, technology, um, they're not discovered; they're being rediscovered. And I could see a lot of these laws and concepts are are not discoveries, but just being rediscovered. And whether or not that is being transferred to us from higher planes of beings or beings from a previous civilization that are worshipped as gods. These are things to keep in mind when we do our own studies. And I forgot to mention, well, actually, no. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, when it comes to this type of information, especially when it comes to the Code of Hammurabi's, if these are things that you're interested in, please do your own research, for you might be surprised at what you discover about the world and yourself. Let's continue. Therefore, it can be seen that in some cases, an offender's punishment depended on the social status of his victim, although some of the punishments are very harsh from modern standards. For example, if a son strikes his father, his fingers shall be cut off. They were actually indeed to prevent even worse acts of retribution carried out by the wronged person, which I think is important because it's kind of like, you know, the whole concept of an eye for an eye. And it's more of preventing further bloodshed, preventing further crimes, preventing more of a destabilization in society. And if you look at what's kind of going on right now, especially in Western society, we are decreasing the severity of punishment for crimes that are being committed, which then leads to a form of chaos within our legal system and our society, which is more prevalent now than ever. Look to California, look to New York. There are plenty of cities, Portland, within the United States, and I'm sure there are regions in Europe as well, in the UK, France. I know they're having severe issues. Germany, the Netherlands. These Western societies have, in many ways incentivized criminals by decriminalizing their activities. And I think this is something that's interesting with Hammurabi's code, where I think the severity of the punishments was to prevent a further decline in society. But he made the mistake of not creating a administrative system to maintain the laws that he put into power. Just something I'm thinking of. But let's wrap it up. Lasting legacy. Hammurabi was worshipped as a god by his subjects and was highly revered throughout his kingdom. Commemorations during his lifetime gave thanks for three main achievements: bringing victory in war, establishing peace, and fighting for justice. However, after his death, his military accomplishments were minimized, and his reputation as a merciful king and the ideal lawgiver became the central aspect of his legacy. And there you have it, a light introduction into the Code of Hammurabi. And as I was saying before, it is clear that because of that lack of administrative system, the laws that he was creating were not able to be enacted, were not able to be fulfilled. And you're seeing a very similar thing in our administrative system in the West, where when it comes to these district attorneys and who is funding their elections and re-elections, you begin to see the degradation of our criminal system, and how we do not have people in power to maintain the system. And we have people in power who are not improving the system and maintaining its longevity, while simultaneously decriminalizing the capabilities of our criminal system to maintain law and order. And that is a very concerning thing. And if we do not bring about a radical change to maintain our legal system and improve it to be more humane and more just and balanced, we may end up finding ourselves living in a land of an eye for an eye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And until next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.